right, guys, welcome to another episode of a Student of Game podcast. We've got an awesome guest here to talk about his story, which is a lot different from some of the others that we've had on recently. Again, I'd like to reiterate the concept of our show is we want to dive into the lessons, the life, and the upbringing and changes of people who we see have made, astronomical adjustments to who they are and shaped their mentality, or, in other situations have derived a great deal of success, and try and take some things from them. So today's guest is, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Dillon Huber. I'm from Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and just moved out here about 2.5 months ago.
Cape what? Cape middle of nowhere? Is that what you said?
Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
Okay, explain that to us. If anybody watching has never heard of Cape Girardeau, are we talking big city, small city? Are we talking country? Is there a Chili's?
There's a Chili's.
There is a Chili's.
Yeah,
okay, so it's not too bad.
It's not a small town, but it's not a huge town either. I would say it's about mid-town.
So are we talking like, is it as big as like San Antonio? Because San Antonio's not that big.
I've never been to San Antonio, so I don't know.
Well, I've heard of San Antonio, so it's probably smaller than that, right? But you got a Chili's. That's a good sign, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this. This is how I really gauge cities and where they're at. What sports team you guys repping out there? Give me what NBA team, and not like what you like, but the city. What are you guys' loyalty lies in?
Cardinals and Blues are huge there.
That's kind of where everybody's leaning to?
Yeah.
We're about the Arizona Cardinals?
No, Missouri. We're in Missouri. So we're about 2 hours south of St. Louis. So St. Louis Cardinals and St. Louis Blues.
So we got perspective on where you're at. Well, awesome. Well, Dillon, it's a pleasure to have you on. I appreciate you, making your way out here. I'd love to, dive into your story and talk about that. First and foremost, we always like to, set a good expectation. What do you do, now? What do you kind of label yourself? What are the things that you're into?
Now I'm a business manager. Just kind of help, manage a lot of different types of businesses. I'm still into soccer, so soccer's still huge for me, and working out. So it's kind of my big thing still. Nice.
Well, that's great, and that gives us a good understanding of kind of who you are, and we'll obviously get into, where that's shaped. But one thing I always like to do when you talk about someone and who they are, it's very important to know, when that development began, right? So when you look at yourself as, the Dillon that you see today, where do you think that started? Where do you think that transition began? Where in your past did your journey really start?
I would say probably 2019 would actually be where it began because I decided I wanted to experience something new in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And that's when I actually got light of, Dallas, Texas area. So that's when I moved out here. And I actually went into a membership salesman at LA Fitness, and it was definitely a different mindset than where I was beforehand. So, and that's what I wanted. That's exactly what I wanted. Somewhere new, meet new people, and try to, get out of my comfort zone.
Yeah. So. Well, let me go a little bit further, right? Because I think that's a great starting point as to where your professional career began. But what you're alluding to is you had to make some drastic adjustments in who you are. You wanted to grow. You wanted to kind of expand yourself, and which is great because first and foremost, the vast majority of people fall victim to complacency, right? It's a quicksand trap. Most people think it's one of those things that they're not going to experience and that they're not going to be subjective to. And there's a lot of people who do experience complacency and they don't know how to get out of it. So we might gain a lot from you in how you have navigated that. But I want to first find out how we got into that complacency, or even if you labeled it different, how we got unsatisfied with being in the small town, because you're discussing, your big move to the big city of Dallas. And I absolutely want to know why you chose Dallas. But before that, where did the journey start to end to where you said, this is not where I want to be anymore? Because that's where you grew up, right? Mm-hmm. And your family, are they from there? Mm-hmm. So you got all the roots of your life are in that city.
Yeah.
Okay. So growing up there, when you were younger, did you always know you wanted to get out of here? Was it a feeling that you grew into? I mean, because the thing about small towns is a lot of guys, they stay there. They love it there. They find happiness there. They work in the same job that their parents worked at. I mean, we see that, all across the United States. So when did Dillon say, hey, this isn't for me, and what led you to that?
When I graduated college, I got my dietetics, undergrad in dietetics, and I could have spent more money on getting my internship, but I was like, I don't want to go and spend that much money on something I may or may not do in the future. and being held back like in a hospital or something. I mean, that's just where I kind of mentally where I was. It was like, okay, so if I go and get my internship done and everything, I'm gonna come back and be a dietitian in the hospital. I didn't want to do that. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I need to find a way out of Cape and just experience something new. Because I'm just kind of I was dwelling on myself and everything. And
how long were you considering that? Like when you first thought about, hey, I want to experience something new, to when you decided to do it, how long was that contemplation period?
A few months, probably 3 to 4 months.
Which is an extremely short period of time for such a huge jump.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about moving states to take on a new opportunity. Most people weigh on that for a very, very, very long time. A few months is quick. Did you have support from the people around you? Did people encourage you to do it, or were you getting the other?
I had support. I actually reached out to my buddy because he was actually moving out here from St. Louis. That's where he lived.
Okay.
I grew up with him, and then he went up to St. Louis, and then his family actually moved down here. His dad actually owned a house and had an extra room, and I was just like, hey, do you mind if I move in?
So is that kind of why you chose Dallas, is you already had somebody out there, you already had somewhere to live,
Yeah.
It gave you a little bit of a head start.
Right.
So are your parents still together?
Yep.
Okay. And how did they feel about that? Because obviously they grew up in Cape and they're still in Cape, right?
Yeah.
So how did they feel about you, up and moving states?
Mom was a little bit more supportive than Dad, but they were nervous, I guess, about it at first. Just because it's about 9 hours away, so
yeah.
They were a little nervous on it. But it helped that I was moving in with a friend.
Yeah, so there was at least a backbone.
Yeah, because
you have brothers and sisters. You're only child.
I have a sister.
Okay.
Older sister.
Older. How much older?
About 3.5 years.
Did she do a similar route, or did she stay in Cape the whole time?
She stayed in Cape, and then she actually moved to Kentucky here recently, a few years ago.
But not during the time when this transition was happening.
No.
So you were the first in the nest that was going to be doing this.
Yeah.
And what was kind of your dad's mentality behind things? Obviously, typically when you deal with parents, one of them is going to be the more concerned one, and typically, mothers are a lot more supportive and they believe in you and they trust in you, and then the father's typically a little bit more analytical and starts to run through, the risk to reward ratio. So what was his mindset on this?
Well, he didn't really tell me a whole lot.
He just said no?
He's like, you sure you want to do this? It's about 9 hours away, so if you need help, we can't help you. So I know.
Yeah.
We have some family around the area. My mom, on my mom's side, here, but I don't really, know him that well. I met him probably once or twice when I was little. So yeah, my dad just, he's asking me all these questions, like, are you sure you want to do this and stuff like that. But before that, he didn't, he always went outside and worked. Never really talked to him like that. So It was just kind of more of a opening up for him to actually reach out to me. So it was different, but my mom was pretty supportive. She was like, okay, well, she was kind of helping me out. Like, you need this, this, and this. And I think she was more worried about that I was going to be taking care of myself and I had everything. Yeah. Dad was just, worried about, like, are you going to be okay type deal.
Yeah. That's awesome. So one thing I want to get into is, that obviously explains why you moved to Dallas, right? You had a good head start. Did you consider other cities? Were there other cities on the radar, or was it just, I want to get out of here and this one makes the most sense because my guy's already there?
I looked around for other jobs. Actually, in Cincinnati, I had opportunity, but I didn't know anybody there, so
that was definitely a factor.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. Obviously, it never happened, but in the hypothetical scenario that your buddy didn't move here, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say the nation was an even playing field. You had no ties anywhere else. You had no head start. It was just you saying, I don't want to be in Cape. Would you have stayed? Would you still have left? And would Dallas have been the landing spot, or was there something else you might have taken?
I don't want to say I'd stay. I think I would try to get out. Probably St. Louis to start, just because it's a bigger city. And
the closest big city. Yeah.
So I'd probably start from there.
Okay. But you were dead set on you needed to get out of there.
Yeah.
And you knew that in your heart and your mind, or was it one or the other?
Both, to be honest. I needed to change, and I loved everybody there, but I was just like, I just don't want to live here. I like visiting, but I didn't want to be there. What
made you feel so strongly that this wasn't for you? What was that thing that was yearning in you that made you say, hey, I got to get out of here?
Just the change. Like, I wanted to change not only, the surroundings and the people, but me and myself mentally. I knew there's better and bigger things out there, and I can change myself a lot more than I could staying there.
Yeah. So it was just the fear of being the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason I ask that is because in most situations when people make drastic moves, outside of, promotions or positive, obvious opportunities, typically the rule of thumb is you're either running from something or you're running towards something. I mean, that's typically that notion that you fall victim to. If you had to ask yourself, do you think you were running towards something in the future or from what you were already in?
A little bit of both, because I want to be successful, and I just don't see being successful in Cape Girardeau. There was nothing really big there, and I just didn't want. There was nothing that I wanted to stay there for. There was nothing holding me back.
Yeah.
So it was just like, I don't have kids. I don't have a wife.
No anchors. You can
nothing.
do whatever you want.
Yeah, I was just ready to change.
And one thing I want to ask about is you said that you want to be successful, or you wanted to be successful, and you've known that, and you know that now. But the thing is, that's a very relative word, and it's very broad. And your mentality of, hey, I want to get out of here. I'm not satisfied with this complacency, and I want to go generate success. I mean, maybe not now because you've matured and you've grown a lot since then, but in that period of time, how did you define success? Because you're saying you wanted to move to find success. Mm-hmm. How would you define success? What was success? What did it look like to you? What is that picture that you see in your head and which you want to manifest?
Success. I knew you were going to go into this actually. After you asking that,
it's a big question. Come on now.
I mean, it's probably a lot. It's been changed since I actually, thought about it the first time. Because the first time I wanted to move out, I wanted to move out. This isn't it. So success in my mind, I would just say, having a place of my own, but being able to take care of myself on my own as well. I wouldn't really say independent, but just being able to support my family no matter what from however far away, and then go out and work and hit the grind. I make sure I do my job of what I want to do and be happy, but also make money on the side. I mean, I want to be happy with what I do anywhere I go. So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't really put a definition behind success because.
Well, let me ask you this: if you say that, and again, and here's the one thing: anytime you're dealing with an answer that's relative, it's ever changing. Mm-hmm. When I ask you today what success looks like, it's different than when I ask you what did it look like then. It's going to be different if I ask you 5 years from now. It's a relative notion. It will always change, right? There's a book that is written called The Cheese Moves. The cheese will always move. It doesn't stay in the same place, which means it's always going to change. But I ask you this. If you can currently define success as what sounds to me like self-sustainment, right? I want to be able to have my own thing that I know is mine and start to build myself up where I don't need support. I could have it if I want it, but I don't need it. And also I'm in a position where I could give it. Because if you've had the parents you have that have supported you and have taken care of you and have always had your back, there's always that notion of I want to do for others what was done for me, right? Mm-hmm. So everybody who's been helped typically feels that natural yearning to help others. So there's a bit of self-sustainment that kind of seems to be success to you. So my question would be, how do you know if you've arrived?
Where I want to be? Or
the level of success. How do you know if you are or not successful?
In a way, I don't think you ever really do hit success, to be honest, because if you're always working and everything, I mean.
So there are no successful people?
There are successful people, but mentally, like, I don't want to be to where I am just like, on the 19th floor in a high rise living and
yeah, that must be nice. That sounds like a good life.
No, I just don't want to like have everything, and then kind of spoil myself. Mm-hmm. I want to not only be successful, but I want to continuously keep going. Mm-hmm.
To what end? To no end?
Just to helping as much as I can until I can't. Type deal.
So the end is the end.
Yeah,
there is no I've arrived or there's no I've accomplished enough to be able to say I'm successful. No. Okay. And again, it is a relative answer. So if I asked you this, here's the thing, right? Mm-hmm. You've painted a picture of what you want to accomplish, and then you've also stated that when you get there, you probably won't be done. But I guarantee you, when I ask you what your answer is once you've accomplished that, it'll probably be different.
It could change.
Maybe not completely off. But perspective changes everybody's relative opinion, right? So I only ask that because I think it's important to get that mentality of where you're at. Because, again, there's a lot of people across the nation. There's a lot of people that we know. There's a lot of people that you know in your life and probably that you went to school with that have very similar yearnings. You know, there's a ton of people that grow up in certain predicaments, whether it be good, bad, or ugly. And it's not just small town to big. There's a ton of people who grow up in the big city, who grow up in big situations, who have great opportunities, great families, and they don't want this. You know, I was in Denver a couple years back on a solo travel trip trying to expand and grow and learn. I've got these rules I follow, what I call growth trips, and I'd love to share that with you because I know you're so, really locked in on growing. I want to get into that in a second. Right. But one of the things that these rules that I follow force me to do is really get comfortable being outside of my comfort zone. That's the premise of the rules I made. I read David Goggins' book, You Can't Hurt Me, which talks about, how much you have the control of completely changing who you are, your entire mentality, which can change your entire being. But it was the first time, because of these rules, it was the first time that I really put genuine. I've listened to people, but this is the first time in my life I genuinely was paying attention to people who are not like me. In my regular life, I want to work. I want to grow, I want to build. If you don't have that mentality, I don't have much in common to have conversation with you, right? We're not on the same page. But for the first time in my life, because of the rules that I'm following on this very specific trip with this very specific, intention, I was listening to everybody. And kind of what you were addressing, man, I'm in this Uber, right? And there's this guy, he's driving me, and I don't know how this conversation started, but he was explaining to me that he grew up in the big city. His parents had money, and he didn't want it. He wanted to be somebody who didn't have a job. He wanted to be somebody who made enough to afford his very small rent because he had roommates and to be able to put food on his table. He was not interested in growing. He was not interested in a legacy. He was not interested in creating anything. He wasn't interested in pushing himself. He was interested in just enjoying this moment. And now I can say that with so much different perspective where I genuinely can empathize as to why you see that. I don't agree with it, but I get it. And prior to that moment, if you would have told me that, I'm just like, dude, you're lazy. That would have been my end-all, be-all statement is you're lazy. But I learned since then, and I've grown since then, to recognize that some people are just in a predicament, and it's not what they want. It's not what they desire. It's not what they yearn for. They want to change it. But a lot of people don't have the courage or are able to take that leap of faith to do it. And you did. I mean, for you to tell me that when you decided that you wanted to leave Cape, it only took you 2 or 3 months to make that decision, that's huge. I know guys who literally think about something for 2 or 3 years before they jump off the cliff. And when they jump off the cliff, they've got 15 parachutes. You had no one. You had a friend who moved here, and that's it. At the time, did you think about that and you just kind of made that decision, or did those things not cross your mind and you said, screw it, I got nothing to lose anyway?
I was a little nervous, 100%. But yeah, I mean, there was nothing really to lose back then either. So it was just kind of we'll see how it works out.
Yeah.
Type deal.
Okay. So you made that decision. You moved out here. You lived with your friend. How did you find the job that you were in? Did you have that job coming over, or did you get here and get that job?
I got here and got the job. So
okay. So when you moved out, you didn't even have a job?
No.
That's a huge leap of faith. That's probably why your dad was like, man, you're crazy, bro. You don't even have a job. Yeah. Okay. And then, what did you end up doing? Did you have experience in that? What was the situation?
No, I never had experience. I mean, I've worked I've worked out in, a lot of times in my life. So I was like, okay, doing a gym sales, I think I could do that because it pertains to health. I've done it, I just encourage people to get into the gym because it's like, I'm here for your well-being. Mm-hmm. I want you to progress in life just like I do. So
you were selling gym memberships?
Yeah.
And this was the first sales position you ever had?
Yeah.
Okay. What are some of the challenges that you faced?
Trying to, present myself in a way to where it's not like I'm selling something, but like trying to help out somebody, just trying to get that angle into somebody. I mean, that was just kind of weird. Just opening up to go talk to somebody random too. That was definitely different. I've never done that before. So, I think those were my biggest challenges, just talking and communicating.
So In your upbringing, do you feel that you were, a naturally confident person? I mean, you're bringing up that one of the challenges you faced in sales was speaking to people you didn't know. Do you label yourself as social, antisocial, introvert, extrovert? I mean, how would you declare yourself?
A little bit more social now. I don't even know now. I think I've changed too much to really even be able to put a label on myself. But I have times where I don't get out and be social, and I have times where I go and be social. It's just kind of like day by day, different type of feeling. But I try to force myself to go out and be social as much as I can.
Why? Why is that a priority for you?
To change, because I know where I was hasn't worked out, so it can't hurt to go
to try the other.
Try the other thing.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because again, we're now getting into the mentality of who you are and the things that you put forth to try and become what you see as a better person, which again is a relative notion. Some people are super social and they wish they weren't. You weren't and hope that you are. We all have different concepts of it. For me personally, I think it's vital for where I want to go. I believe it or not, as social and as open and center attention as I am now, I was not like this growing up. Very similar to you. I wasn't a big social guy, and I actually had a tough time, when I was younger, having conversations with people I didn't know. I remember when I was younger, I used to be the type of person who, if a movie came out and I really wanted to go see that movie, and I text my friends like, hey man, you want to go see this movie, or, do you want to go? And nobody would go. I just wouldn't go, even though I wanted to go see it. Or, if I was in the mood to go to a dinner and like I couldn't find anybody to go to that dinner with me or a lunch at a restaurant, I just wouldn't go. I would go get it takeout to go. And I just, maybe similar to you, I just started to recognize like this is going to be a hindrance for me to accomplish everything I've set out for myself. Like this will be something that slows me down, because in my opinion, in order to bring whatever your life's goals are into fruition, you have to be the person that deserves that life goal. And if I want to build things that are great and I want to build people up to be great, you've got to be able to lead people. And it's really difficult to be in the locker room and rally behind the quarterback who is not super confident, who doesn't really believe in himself, who can't look at you in the locker room down 21 points or 28 points and say, this is no big deal. We can climb out of this like nothing. And I saw that as deficiency. I knew it. I don't think at that point in life it was affecting me so much, but I knew it was going to be a ceiling that stopped me from getting where I wanted to go. And it's great because when you look in your past and you look at the growth that you've had, you almost forget that chapter of your life. And it seems to me like you're still in that because you're much better than you used to be, but you still have got a lot of work to do, which is dope to admit. But I also like to take moments and just recognize the progress, because one thing about you that I've kind of gained in the last few minutes, and even us knowing each other, even though the product may not be finished, because we are still growing, we're still getting there, you're well beyond where you started. I mean, even if you moved out, you moved out here, even if everything went to absolute shit, being able to just make that risk makes you much more brave than probably 90% of people. That right there, people have to build themselves up just to make that decision, let alone making that decision and then saying, I still got more growing to do. So I commend you for that, because a lot of people can't do that. A lot of people are struggling with that. And you made that decision remotely easier, actually a lot easier than I made my first move. And my first move came with a promotion, and I still was challenged with it. That thing came with a salary, and I still contemplated it. So it's dope, and it's awesome that you do see the value of growth and that you see the value of what you want to accomplish to get there. So let me ask you this. You obviously get out here now. You found yourself, how are you specifically working on your growth? Obviously I know you're not there yet. We've discussed that, but it's something that you're working on, right? Mm-hmm. What are some things that you do in your regular life that are helping you become the eventual finished product, Dillon?
Well, I started listening to some podcasts, and I've been trying to read a lot more than I have before, just like books that kind of motivate me.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's pause. Let's unpack a little bit. Okay. So you talked about podcasts. How did you get into podcasts? Did somebody recommend it to you? What are some podcasts you're watching? And also, everybody hears that, right? Listen to podcasts. You'll learn from podcasts. But everybody's like, oh, I don't have time for podcasts. So when do you get them into your life? How do you go about it?
I got it on. It's like just the Apple app podcast. That's all it's called.
Yeah.
But there's stuff on there, just like there's motivational speeches and stuff like that. And I kind of dove in on a few of those. And it's like a morning mindset, I think is what it's called. I don't know his name offhand, but it's just called Morning Mindset or something like that. But he kind of just speaks different aspects of life and how to approach it and, attitudes towards stuff, try to be positive.
When do you listen to it?
I would say probably 2 to 3 times a week as of right now.
Like when? At night, in the morning, in the middle of the day, when you're driving?
Those, yeah.
Like as soon as you wake up?
Yeah.
Like when you're cooking breakfast and all that?
Yeah. That. And then some ministers I listen to every now and then. My mom sends me some stuff because she likes to listen to a lot of different ministers and stuff. So she sends me whatever she listens to. So it kind of puts me in the right positive mindset.
Yeah.
So I think I still can find others that are probably more able to help me get into a better mindset.
Yeah, but starting somewhere is better than starting nowhere. I mean, everything's going to get improved. You'll find better podcasts that you like more. You're going to find different speakers that resonate with you more. But the fact is, you started. I mean, that's square one. Most people don't even freaking start. It's like the gym, right? You're a huge fitness advocate. You obviously talk about your nutritional background. You talk about your fitness background. We used to say in the gym all the time, man, just showing up means everything. I don't care if you know what you're doing. Like, that will come over time. Just fucking show up. And it's great that you started that. You talked about books as well. What are some books that you have read or ones that you're in, and where did you get those recommendations?
I actually got one. It was like little short stories. It's like little mental, I think, encouragement or something like that. But I got it at like an airport when I was going to Arizona for a bachelor party.
Nice. Buying a book on the way to the bachelor party. Huh? I bet it didn't get read while you were there, huh?
I read a few of them on the way just because I was like, I don't know.
You already had it, yeah. You already
there. I was like, I need something in the air. I've never really flew but one time, so I was like, I need something to get my mind off the flight. So I was like, I need something that at least is going to help me.
Yeah.
So that's what I found, and I was like, okay, why not? It's like only $5, so I've had that ever since, and I just kind of like read different little short stories about it. And there's like some Olympic medalist short stories in there, so it's kind of interesting and intriguing. Okay.
And what is it giving you? It's giving you lessons about those people and what they've done?
How they got there. I mean, pushing themselves, and then I guess one of the little short stories is about like no one's ever beaten a 4-minute mile. It's just impossible, or you'll die. And it's like this guy was so determined to beat it, and he beat it.
It's encouraging.
Yeah, so.
And it's great you bring that up, man. Because one thing I've always addressed in my life is I've talked about this so many times, man. I'm so fascinated with greatness. Those things are so dope. People who see barriers and get fixated on it is amazing. There's a documentary I think you should watch. It's on Netflix. It's called 14 Peaks, and it's about this guy Min. And this is when I knew it was going to be a dope documentary. Right? It starts off. I'm talking about beginning of the documentary. Just begins, and he goes, there are 14 peaks in the world that are over X altitude, and no one has ever summited those within a year. People have told it is impossible for a human to do that. And he says, I will be the first one to show you that humans can accomplish more. And it was just like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? And it turned out to be one of the greatest human feats that's ever happened. Those guys accomplished it, wrote books, all turned into, New York Times best-selling authors. The documentary, went crazy, and these guys have inspired a ton of humans in and out of their field, right? Because I'm a firm believer, and this is kind of the concept of our show, is you can learn lessons and ascertain different things from people who are chasing different passions. As long as they're chasing it and pursuing it with passion or with determination or with, discipline, or they're doing it in a realm of success. I can watch, I firmly believe this, in the fields that I'm in, I could watch professional cup stackers and learn from them. Because they're going to teach you about how to prepare for greatness, how to approach greatness, how to do things at a high level. It does not matter your field, and that's the point of life, is to grow and it's to get better, and it's to really, push yourself to be better, which is so dope that you're on that journey, because that's that journey that really gives your life purposeful meaning. I mean, it's so easy to grow up in a small town, right? And your mom owns a gas station or whatever, and you just say, hey, this is what I'm destined to work at, and go through the motions. And it's so easy for your mind to tell you that you're happy because you have friends around you and you have people that love you. And you go to work from 9 to 6, and at 6 o'clock you go home and you spend it with your 3 kids. It's so easy to say that this is my purpose in life, but it may not be. It may not be, and it's so difficult for people to kind of come to that notion of what if I'm destined for more, and what if I'm destined to show these people in my past that they can also be destined for more, right? And they say every family has a code breaker. Every family has that person whose job is to take the flag up the pole, or to take it up as high up the mountaintop to show others this is actually where we can go. So it's awesome that you got into that. Let me ask you this: with your current life and how things are going, what are some goals that you have? Both immediate and long term. Let's start with immediate. What are things that you really want to accomplish?
Well, immediate, I want to be able to be more confident in myself and talking to more people. Pushing myself to get out and talk to more people in different situations, no matter what it is. Because like I said, I don't really do that genre.
How are you going about an action plan to get to that goal?
I don't really have a plan yet, to be honest with you. But just getting out and I went to like this event. It was the Live Golf, and I think that was kind of good for me as well.
To just be out there with a bunch of strangers.
Yeah, it was just me. Like originally, somebody was supposed to go with me, but
that's crazy.
but they didn't. So and then one of my other buddies, he actually hit me up to go, and he didn't. So it was like I had 3 tickets and just me. So
did you talk to people? Did you?
Yeah, I actually met probably like 5 different people. And it was, different, but it wasn't that hard. I think you've always put that mindset. It's like, oh man, I'm so nervous to talk. Like, what do I talk to this person about?
Yeah.
And it just kind of flowed, and it was just easy.
And it forces it on you.
Yeah.
When I first got into business, and honestly, it was actually when I first got into sales, not even business. When I first got into sales, I had a very difficult time speaking to strangers. And I actually found this out because when I first got hired as a sales counselor or a sales representative, at the time, my general manager told me, hey, listen, we're going to go to Walmart and we're going to give out guest passes. We drove to Walmart. We all put everybody through this fucking fire, right? And we get to Walmart, and he hands me the stack of guest passes, and he's like, go get people to sign up for this guest pass. And I see all these people. First off, we're at fucking Walmart, okay? We're not at the mall. We're not at Target. Like, these people don't give a fuck about what we're talking about. But I needed that fire, right? So all these people are walking by, and I now look at this in such a different light, right? But I'm staring at them. They're staring at me, stare at them, but I'm not saying anything. And I've always said the analogy, everybody has walked in a grocery store and saw either a DirecTV representative or the person at the bank inside that grocery store look at you, see the intimidation on your face, and instead of pitching you whatever they're doing, they go, hi. And you're like, sup, and you just walk off. And those people show me the exact person that I was, too afraid to ask for the sale. I didn't want to be that person. So one of my mentors at the time gave me this book. I can't remember the name of this book, but it's about this Asian guy. It's a true story. He's getting ready to start a business. And he made the decision that in order to get comfortable with no, this is the whole book. He would go to the nightclub at about 1:50 in the morning, and he would walk up to the prettiest girl in that club. And he would walk up to her and approach her to try and basically take her out of there. And he said that he got rejected like a motherfucker, right? This is not an attractive dude, old Asian cat. He's walking up to a dime in a nightclub who's probably with her dude or been fed drinks by all these guys all night. He said that he got so comfortable with no's. He said he went 150 days in a row. And he said it wasn't until about the 120th day where he got so comfortable with no that his entire demeanor changed. His swagger changed, how he spoke changed, how he carried himself changed, that all of a sudden he started getting yeses. And they were surprising initially, but it was the hindsight that he looked back and saw that he wasn't approaching them the same way he did from day 1 through 10. He wasn't going up saying, oh, hey, how you doing? Did you want to get out of here? It gets so easy. You get more comfortable in that situation that by day 120, he said, he started walking up and he said, hey, how you doing, beautiful? You look great tonight. What are you doing here? Who are you with? And the conversation turned into somebody who's comfortable speaking to strangers. I read this book and I was like, I want to be that. I want to be like that. Like, I want that. I want to be able to walk into a room with people I don't know and meet the whole room right there. Like, I don't want to be the person I was where if I got invited somewhere, and this is what I used to be. If I got invited somewhere and the person who invited me wasn't there, I would like try and stall. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm in the corner, like I'm talking to the bartender. I'm just trying to wait for him to get here so that I can do my thing. I don't want to be that guy anymore. So it's awesome that you have that goal, because I think all great people recognize the necessity of being able to do that, being able to be a social butterfly. And even if it's not your innate mentality, even if it's not what you genuinely want to do, it's still a skill set you have to require, right? Mm-hmm. It's still something you got to have in your tool belt. You don't have to do that all the time, but you can if you want to. So it's awesome that that's a short-term goal. What else you got?
Long-term, I would say I'd like to, eventually start my own business, something probably with nutrition. What that is right now, I don't know. I'm kind of worried about what I'm doing at the moment, day by day, but I kind of have some ideas. So,
what are we thinking? Like consulting, or you're just saying anything in the field?
Consulting.
Yeah.
I'd love to, kind of like counseling, nutrition counseling. I would love to do that. Just kind of help out people.
Like putting together people's meal plans and guiding them through their diet.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a great space. I mean, obviously, as you start to climb the socioeconomic ladder and you start to meet, wealthy and distinguished people, they have less and less time. And these people absolutely need and see the benefit behind good nutrition that allows them to continue to do what they do. But as you said, it is a journey and it is a process, because the unfortunate part of business is a lot of people know their industry, but they don't know how to run a business around that industry. And it's so vital to get that. And it's great that you have that as a long-term goal, because one of those prerequisites that you got to have is you got to have what's called aggressive patience, which basically is I am patient in the time it's going to take to do this, but I am aggressive in the notion that I want to get there, And it's a teeter-totter. It's a balancing scale of trying to be good with waiting, but not okay with not getting there, right? It's that yearning that's in you, but it's also the control of saying this is going to take time, which are great goals. You have great goals. The next part is, what's the action plan to get there, which,
still building it.
Yeah, and that's the point, right?
So.
You go through the process, and one thing that I think you figured out, which should give you a great light of enthusiasm, is for you to accomplish both the things that you just listed. You don't need to build those things. You just got to build yourself, right? And you've already started the journey of building yourself. You're already moving in that right direction. One thing I would like to know, because obviously you're in that. You're in the mix of growing, and I think a lot of people want to grow, but they don't know where to start. Talk to me about day-to-day activities that you put forth in yourself to help you grow as a person. Or maybe not so much day-to-day if that's too finite, but maybe things that you do within the week, some different specific items that you're doing in your life to help you become better. Obviously, you brought up that you're putting podcasts, you're implementing podcasts, you're implementing books. Is there anything else in your life that really helps you feel you're optimizing who you are?
Kind of writing as well. I kind of started writing a little bit. That got a little easier to do. Just kind of like, jotting down just ideas and just mental notes, just
like a vision board.
Yeah, in a way. Just kind of like even frustration. Sometimes it's just good to write it down because it gets.
Where are you writing them? Are you like in a journal, on sticky notes, on the mirror?
It's remarkable.
Okay, all right. So you're journaling basically.
But I can delete those, so it's just like I can put it on there and then delete it.
So a tablet. You're journaling basically.
Yeah, basically.
You journal like daily, randomly.
Oh,
is it
randomly.
Consistent? Just kind of whenever it pops up.
Yeah.
Whenever you kind of feel you got to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. That's awesome. And then do you ever go back into those notes, or you just kind of write them to get them out your system?
Just get them out of my system. I mean, even like self-talk, as embarrassing as that is, but self-talk is huge.
Huge.
So, I mean, like the sales thing, like I have to try to beat myself in a mirror.
Let me ask you this, because first off, I want to make that very clear as we get towards the end of our episode. Self-talk is a critical, important part. I mean, that's not something that anyone should take lightly. Anyone looking to grow or looking to change or looking to be better or looking to push yourself, I'm going to tell you right now, clear as day, self-talk is necessary. When you are going in the realm of someplace you've never been, do not think you're going to go there by yourself. but your self-talk gives you a second voice, a second encouragement to do it. It's like trying to lift weights you've never lifted. You need to tell yourself a lot of things to lift that weight. But the question I'm going to ask you is the question I ask everyone who believes in self-talk. Is your self-talk positive or negative?
It used to be negative.
Okay.
And that's another thing that was, I was like, I got to get out of here, because when my self-talk started to go downward to negativity rather than positive, I was like, I need to change something. And that was, I think, one of the first starters to get me out of where I was.
So now your self-talk is positive affirmations. And you feel that fuels you better than the negative?
Yeah, 100%.
Well, it's weird because me personally, the negative ones fuel me way better than the positive ones. Like like if I had to ask myself how much fuel power I got from positive self-talk, I would say it's probably like 10%, maybe 5-10%. If I ask myself how much I get from negative self-talk, and I'm fucking hard as fuck on myself, like crazy. Like if I talk to people the way I talk to myself, bro, they'd be like, I never want to fucking see you again. But I just recognize how much I get out of myself that way. Like, I'm kind of a piece of shit to myself, where it's like, dog, you're fucking ass today, bro. Like, you got to step it up. Like, this shit is pathetic. Like, bro, it's 9 and you're still in bed. Like, my conversations are tough, and I've recognized that fuels me so much more. It really, I force myself to be disgusted in my performance to make it better. You know what I'm saying?
Would that be? You say that was negative talk?
That's a negative talk. My conversations are not light. They're.
I think your just tone of voice
simply
changes.
It's definitely the verbiage.
Like, I mean, it's just like, okay, I need to get out of bed and be productive today. My ass needs to get out of bed.
No, man. Like, there are points. Listen, I've been in better shape. I've been in worse shape. But there are points where I'm looking in the mirror like, dude, you're a fat piece of shit. And listen, I'm not that fat, but I'm in the mirror like, dude, you're fucking disgusting, bro. Like, you look like a slob.
Would you consider, like, I don't want to go back to that. I have to do this because I don't want to go back to that.
That doesn't give me enough. It doesn't give me enough.
That's not negative talk, but it's just still kind of the same.
I can do that. I'm capable of it. It doesn't give me enough. Okay. In that moment, I could choose to do either or, and one of them is going to make me, like, go to the gym, and then the other one's going to make me, like, throw everything in my kitchen away that is more than, like, 200 calories. Like, I just recognize how much more it fuels me. Like, when I did so I did the David Goggins 4x4x48 challenge. First off, have you read David Goggins' book? Okay, you need to read that. Based on what I know of you, actually, I'll give it to you. I have it. Based on what I know of you, this book will be impactful for you. It actually, I equate a couple books to the core curriculum of what was my epiphanic change, what made me go from who I was to who I am. That is one of those books. I mean, it is literally the entirety of why people know the greatness of David Goggins, is the ability to literally change yourself. And one of the things that he addresses is self-talk, and then also the cookie jar, right? And the cookie jar is a great lesson if you know what that is, but we all go through challenges. We all face trials and tribulations through life, right? It's not all dandelions and roses. And the cookie jar, which he describes in this book and he describes in a lot of his story, is that thing of what you have accomplished or what you have endured or things that you have gone through, that when you do or are faced with something new, you can tell yourself, this is nothing in comparison to what I've done. This is something that I have been through. I've been through this dark hour, that this challenge that I'm now facing, it's nothing compared to what I've done, right? Or this task, yes, it's difficult, and yes, it's challenging, and yes, it's a giant hill, but man, I've climbed a mountain back in the day. You know, back in this date on that time with this situation, I climbed a mountain. This is nothing. And being able to reach into that cookie jar and just ground yourself is so critical. And the problem, or not the problem, but the predicament it puts you in is then you got to go pursue items to put in that cookie jar, right? And that was one of those things that really changed my life is in order to be great and accomplish great things, you don't have to be great every day. You just got to be great a couple times. And when you're faced with a challenge, remember how great you are because of that great thing you did. Right? Not everybody great is great all the time, right? Not every all-star is going to hit every shot. But when you take that shot, you're going to take it with confidence because you're going to say, I've hit a game winner last week. Or when these guys trusted me to hit that shot, I hit it. And that cookie jar is exponential, right? It really gives you that confidence on a daily basis to carry yourself in lieu of how you want to be. And also the self-talk that he addresses in that, and how you speak to yourself, and how you have to identify what fuels you most and what gives you the most. And when I did his challenge, which is probably the toughest thing I've ever physically done, I remember my self-talk. I remember when I got halfway through it and I wanted to quit, what conversations I was having with myself. And that was the moment. Again, I want to reiterate, this was the hardest physical challenge I've ever done. That moment and what I said to myself to get through it, it really solidified, like, it may not sound good to others, and even you were saying, like, hey, you could switch it with these words. But it was that moment where I recognized, because before that I tried a lot of stuff. I was trying good, bad, this, that, whatever felt good that day. But it was that moment, and the hardest moment that I was going through, where it was like, this is the one that's gotten me through this. So I took that concept and how my self-talk was in that moment, and I put it in my cookie jar, which is kind of the double entendre of his lessons. Yeah. And now it's like, that is the same things that I'm using to get through the day, or get through tiresome days, or get through the travel, and get through everything that you're faced upon. It's like, it's there for you when you have it, and I think it's an encouraging thing. I actually was talking there's a guy named Thomas, real successful guy. His name's Thomas Ronda. I actually want to give Thomas a shout out. He lives in my building. Real awesome guy, super hardworking, sells insurance. He actually just bought an R8 last week. Shout out to you, Thomas, which was his dream car growing up. And I'm so proud of the guy, but we talked about that. He did the same challenge. I'll explain it to you as we have a couple more minutes. First, you got to read the book. I think it's going to be super impactful for you. I'm going to give it to you. But it's called the 4x4x48. And the way the challenge works is you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours straight. So it starts on 8 a.m. on Thursday. You can do it whenever, right? But the national day that it's done is March 6th or something. But you can do it whenever. I know guys who did it outside of that realm. They just wanted it that bad that they just set it up themselves, right? Mm-hmm. And you could probably do it because you're a runner. I had to prepare for it. You know what I mean? I'm not a runner. Fuck all that. But it starts at Thursday, 8 p.m. So at 8 p.m., you go out and you run 4 miles. You come back. You can use that leisure time for whatever you want. Sleep, eat, rest, sit in an Epsom salt bath, take a shower, whatever. But when midnight comes, you got to go back out and run 4 miles again. And then you repeat that at 4 a.m. You repeat that at 8 a.m. You repeat that at noon. And you do that for 48 hours straight. And I didn't even know this until I was done because, it was the least of my fucking worries. But then you recognize that you ran 48 miles, which now in where I'm at today, it's so crazy to think I ran 48 miles. But I'm going to tell you right now, that's the least of your fucking worries. Because, again, it's going to take you probably an hour and a half, right? Mm. You may be a little bit faster than me. It took me like an hour and a half, whatever. Now you got 2 hours to sleep max. Most sleep you're getting is maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. So there's a lot of challenges that come in, right? There's the physical challenge of all the miles, and then there's the mental strain of not sleeping and eating and planning it out, and then there's the when you do take a nap, you've got to wake up, and you have to be mentally strong enough to actually get up and get back outside. Right. So there's a lot that goes into it. But I really equate a lot of my being to some of those things, and that one being one of those super dope ones, right? So then I ask on camera, are you committing to this or what?
Oh, crap.
Come on now. On the spot.
Sure. I'm down for whatever.
It's not sure, man. It's either you're in or you're out. You're going to do it.
Yes.
When are you going to do it?
I don't know that.
Well, we're waiting, man.
Let's do 2 weeks from now. That way I can prepare.
God damn. That's it? All you need is 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, I prepared for 3 months, but if you think you can do,
give me an idea. I'll do a month. We'll say a month then.
Okay, so that would be the beginning of December. Does that feel like something you can accomplish at the beginning of December?
Yeah.
Now you're putting in another challenge, which might be great for you. It might be great for your mental strain. The next challenge you're going to be dealing with is the weather.
Yeah.
Because you got to do it outside. Can't do it on a treadmill.
I love running in cold weather, so I hope it is cold.
So you're fully committed to this. You're going to do this. I don't even have to say the beginning of December. You're committed that you will do this.
I will do it
within December.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to read the book by then. Okay. That's a great point. I think that's a great end segment to how we go with things. I do want to ask you a few small questions just to kind of get it out of you, and then we'll have some some fun questions to end things, and then we'll get out of here. All right.
All right.
First question I got for you, man. If you could eat one dish every day, rest of your life, what would it be?
Pasta.
What kind of pasta?
Thin,
Remember, it's every
spaghetti.
day for the rest of your life.
Thin spaghetti.
With red sauce?
Sure.
You got what kind of meat you got on there? Do you have meat? No meat?
Chicken. 100% chicken.
Grilled chicken? Fried chicken? Like a chicken parm or like grilled chicken?
Grilled.
Every day, rest of your life?
Yeah.
Okay. Your favorite beverage that is not water.
Jeez, that's actually kind of hard.
Water's easy, right? Everybody says that. Favorite beverage is not water.
Let's go with milk.
That's fucking gross. Okay. Okay.
That's my opinion, not yours.
If you could go and live anywhere for a year, you did not have to work, and you had a credit card that's not yours, so you don't have to worry about money, where in the world would that be? 1 year, you only get 1 year. Where would it be?
Not worry about cars, is that what you said?
No, you can go anywhere in the world to live there for a year, and you don't have to worry about money.
Probably England. I'd like to see how that is. I always hear their food's bad. I don't really know personally, but I just want to know kind of the inside of the soccer world. That's kind of the soccer capitalism, I guess.
So for that year, you'd probably be real soccer centric and just kind of experience that.
I just kind of like to see how they live and soccer academies and everything like that. How it's different than ours.
No, that's dope. That'd be a dope year. That'd be an awesome year.
But yeah, that's kind of where I would go.
Okay.
Probably England.
Nice. Retirement? Would you rather be in the mountains or on a beach?
Mountains.
Okay, nice. Would you want like good temperature mountains, or are we talking snow mountains? Like green mountains or snow mountains? Because those are two different things.
True. I think green. I'd like green because I could always get to the snow mountains, but I think I'd like to live in the green.
It's weird because, like, for me, I love green mountains. I think it's so dope. I would love to go there, like, on a weekend. But if I retired, man, I really envision I don't know why, but I envision my retirement like on some Thanos shit, like in a fucking cabin, like a cabin, like a real cabin made out of like logs, maybe with like a husky, and no email, no internet, just living out my final days until it's a wrap. Like that's really how I see the end on some Thanos shit before fucking Thor pulls up and kills me, you know. But that's my kind of end game plan. Couple quick ones. One chain. Okay, I asked this one to a lot of people. One chain's got to be a recognizable chain. Don't name some crap that's only in wherever small town you're from.
Okay.
All right. One recognizable national chain every day, rest of your life. What would it be?
Chili's.
Really? That's your answer? I just want to make sure. I'm just giving you an extra second to think about it.
Yeah. I'll change it. Cracker Barrel.
I think Chili's was better than Cracker Barrel. I wasn't even hating on the Chili's. I was just making sure you were sure.
Yeah, but they have breakfast, lunch, and dinner there.
Yeah.
Chili's, they don't. They just have lunch and dinner.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
but you're trying to fucking eat pasta for breakfast anyway.
True.
Okay, you're going Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel.
All right. I don't know about that one, but we'll take it. We'll take it.
Hater.
Okay, final question. Last one before I let you get out of here. Dillon, if you could go back to yourself as a young boy, not you 5 years ago, as a young boy, and have a very simple statement, whether it be a couple sentences or one, that you could tell him, what would it be? A young boy that's smart enough to remember things. We're not talking 3. We're talking maybe like 13, 14. Right before it all began, you got plenty of time to change what he does. What would you tell a 13, 14-year-old you?
You may be scared. You may be nervous, but just go do it, because if you go do it, you'll figure yourself out and you'll learn from it, whether it's denial or success from it. Just go do what you're nervous about doing or saying, because I didn't. So that's one thing I wish I kind of had, or at least somebody to tell me that. So just do it and be confident in it.
That's amazing, man. He probably would have said, "Who the fuck are you?" But it's a great lesson, man. And actually, I think a lot of people will resonate from that. And I think a lot of people needed to hear that in this moment. Jump off the cliff. You'll figure out how to build a parachute on the way down. And if you don't, at least you're not standing up there wishing you jumped. All right. I appreciate you being on, Dillon. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you all you guys for watching this episode. If any of you guys need anything or have any questions for him, please leave a comment and we'll get you in touch with him. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great.